We are back on Inside Politics. Our guest today, Linda Peek Schacht from Lipscomb University. She's teaching 2 courses at the university about the first 100 days of Donald Trump. Linda, looking at the Trump White House, it seems to be divided among itself, at least in a couple different ways, maybe even more than that. But you've got the Steve Bannon group, which seemed to have been in the ascendancy, particularly in the early days, that very dark speech he gave at his inaugural address. Yes. But his son-in-law has now taken he's become head of looking at a lot of different things within the White House. They seem to be almost 2 different divergent views of how Donald Trump ought to run his office. And Bannon's got a problem is his boss has now said in the same interview twice, "I like Steve, but." Usually when your boss says that about you, you need to be in trouble. Is Steve Bannon in trouble of staying where he is? Well,
Steve Bannon, unfortunately, broke the cardinal rule of Washington politics, and that is you do not get on the cover of a news magazine appearing to be called the president's puppeteer. It was one thing to have it on Saturday Night Live, but then for news magazines and reporters to start really saying that basically Steve Bannon was Donald Trump's brain, right? That really got him in trouble.
And also getting him sort of contrary to the Trump family. One thing about Donald Trump you can tell from early on, he puts a lot of stead in his family and he keeps his family close and involved in what he does.
Well, that's right. And I think, too, one problem with the White House is they haven't staffed the rest of the government. And so when you have a person who has used to been, he ran the Trump organization basically with his family as his staff, right? And now he has a broader government that he needs to fill in order to have, it's fine to have your family advising you, but you also know people who have the expertise in the areas.
2 other people close to Donald Trump in the White House have been his press secretary, Sean Spicer, and Kellyanne Conway, one of his top domestic advisors. Both of them became weekly characters on Saturday Night Live. They've had a lot of ups and downs and problems. They both have sort of pulled back a little bit, particularly Kellyanne Conway. Are they likely to be long-term players or just sort of fade off into the background here?
Well, on Kellyanne Conway, I think because of the way she hurt her own credibility, not just with the alternative facts line, but also when she went out the same day that that Flynn resigned and said that he had the full confidence of the president, people just quit asking her to be on shows because they didn't think she knew what was going on. With Sean Spicer, I think he's playing to an audience of 1. As long as he goes out there and battles with the press and Donald Trump thinks he is doing a good job, his job is secure.
It seemed to me we saw a somewhat of change of tactics or the way the White House went about things. Early on, there seemed to be multiple things going on every day. I mean, it was at a breakneck speed, one controversy over other things, and White House often stepped on its own good stories that were out there. But it seems that's changed. Certainly there's been a focus from all the domestic things they want to do over to foreign affairs, and that was deliberate, you think? He wouldn't be the first president to do that.
No, I was going to say presidents and their staffs are really prone to look overseas when their domestic stories are not that good. I also think the press is beginning not to chase every shiny object, and so maybe we're not hearing about as much churn because they've decided to focus on more substantive stories.
We've had a couple of special congressional elections in the last few days. There may be 1 or 2 coming up. But so far, the Democrats have not been able to flip any of those seats. Got close in Kansas. They've got their guy leading going into the runoff, but runoffs are separate races. Are the Democrats likely to mislead what this means, that they're maybe in better shape going into 2018 than they think they are?
I think it's too early to tell, but what these elections do show us is that there is a massive, in some cases, rallying of Democrats in these local elections. I also think they have gotten better at using the local press. For instance, the local press was credited in helping Congress to understand the local stories of who would be affected by the Obamacare repeal and replace.
One issue as we close out we've not talked about but has sort of been the cloud over the administration and to some degree over all of Washington, and that has been the involvement of Russia in interfering with the 2016 election. Nobody seems to deny that happened, but nobody's quite sure exactly what there is there. So, I mean, where are we on that particular issue? We got 3 different investigations going on.
Well, and I think this is one of those those times when you just have to let the investigations play out. But I do think that the Russia story and all of its different layers is one reason that Donald Trump kind of went from honeymoon to divorce court with the press in a really fast time.
His pivot within his administration, even some of his own comments, from Russia being sort of the good thing and Putin being a good thing to Russia being a bad thing, and Putin, and at least the way the Russians act, not being good. Has that been an important and good pivot for Donald Trump?
Oh, I think it has, and I think Democrats have to give him credit when he does the right thing, when he moves in the direction of what would be a more normalized approach to the world.
But what you're saying about Russia is, don't let that go away, because it's probably not going to go away. And the fact that there is a criminal investigation, which is the kind of thing we heard back in the days of Richard Nixon, and to some degree when Bill Clinton was there, this is a very serious situation.
That's right. And watch the Senate committee, because I think they've been very quiet, but they're doing their job. And I think something coming out of that Senate Intelligence Committee, or looking at this, could be the type of thing the administration would like to avoid.
Linda Peek Schacht, thank you for coming on the show.
I'm
sure all of us wish we had been in that class every time we could have been part of that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us this week on Inside Politics. Hope you'll be back here again for a future show. If you got to get into politics in the meantime, go to the NewsChannel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. There's a new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.